I want to dive into Fani Willis because she's obviously front and center, as people have said, with one of the most serious cases, probably the single most serious case against Donald Trump, because it does not involve a presidential pardon. It's a series of state charges, and it can't be waved away by a Republican president or a kind-hearted Democratic president. There's nothing that a president can do to save Donald Trump from these charges, and obviously they're serious in nature. So that Fani Willis is, if we put the next element up on the screen, A4. She has been, the right is exploring Fani Willis's history, as you know, it's sort of natural in a situation like this. But one thing that's come up, you see, this is from Newsmax. They say she's an activist Democrat, and her father was a member of the Black Panthers, which they described there, Ryan, as you'll enjoy in parentheses, Marxist-Leninist Black Power group.
Hey, no lies detected.
There you go. And so Fani Willis has sort of come under the microscope, and the Telegraph did a pretty interesting deep dive on her. And I found interesting one quote they have here from a Georgia State University law professor who said she's really a tough on crime liberal, which is kind of a rare bird these days, but I think that's her brand. The Telegraph also notes, by her own admission, Ms. Willis is a fan of RICO. She's previously used Georgia's expansive racketeering charges to prosecute cheating teachers. That's a case that actually got some national headlines at the time. She won 11 convictions and national media attention in relation to the public school test score scandal, as the Telegraph notes there. I think she also had RICO charges against Young Thug, and she won. She pursued those charges, and I think she won in court. Now, Devin Franklin, an attorney for the Southern Center for Human Rights, who spent 12 years in the Fulton County Public Defender's Office, said that using these laws drives, quote, a narrative of violence in Atlanta that's not true, that's not necessarily reflected in the data, and has a tendency to sensationalize the cases. She's spent actually most of her career as an assistant DA down in Fulton County. That's, as people know, outside of Atlanta, it's the most populous county in Georgia, so obviously a hugely important political center of the state. She beat a primary fight against her mentor, Paul Howard, who had been Georgia's first Black district attorney. And so she takes out her mentor, and she says she actually said her father was a former Black Panther. That comes from her. That's not like some weird digging. But I think that's when you have Newsmax calling her an activist Democrat, and then the Telegraph saying she's actually a tough on crime liberal prosecutor, those are obviously in tension right now. If you're an activist Democrat prosecutor, a lot of people think of you along the lines of like a Chesapeake or Gascon, but that doesn't seem to be the case with Fani Willis, who's like, hey, RICO, let's just have a RICO party. And these things seem to be in tension. So the picture of Fani Willis, to me at least, as somebody who's not, in Georgia following politics for the last couple of decades, that's sort of a muddied picture.
They're using activist in a very liberal sense there, because if she were an activist, kind of straight up partisan Democrat, she wouldn't have gone after the teachers union like she did. That was a really brutal case. Came after several schools that she accused of basically rigging their test scores. I think they were cutting into the packets, and it was a mess and a really sad case, and it really shined a light on how far adrift a lot of public schools had gone in Fulton County. And if she were just a straight up kind of partisan Democrat, she would never have taken on that kind of case, and she certainly wouldn't have done it with the zealousness to bring in RICO, which then allows, to the point of some of her critics, allows you to criminalize some things because they're part of the criminal conspiracy that otherwise wouldn't be criminal acts on their own. And so she's good at what she does. Like she's got the record to show it, and good for her dad. Black Panther. The Black Panther Party for self-defense went in some crazy directions towards the very end, but throughout much of its history was a real force for good and empowerment, and particularly kind of stitching together civil society elements in the Black community in the late 60s and early 70s. Yes, but you come after the former president, you're going to certainly get the spotlight from not just outlets like Newsmax, but everybody. So I understand where that's coming from.
Yeah, absolutely. Although I think any efforts to sort of turn her into one of the like a Chesa Boudin,
No,
that's
yeah, it's just not
probably
who she
not
is.
going to
Yeah,
be successful. um,
yeah.
and Ryan, just before we move to the next topic, I just wanted to mention again that she has a critic in that Telegraph article, which is a really good deep dive, actually, saying that she has a tendency to sensationalize cases. And that is definitely, if you want to spend 98 pages going through the indictment, I definitely felt like that was a word that would accurately characterize the indictment itself. But I wanted to ask you, Ryan, about RICO, just sort of in general, as someone who's covered RICO for a while, what it means that she's invoking it here, given the history of RICO and mob stuff, et cetera, et cetera.
Plenty of people have already pointed out the irony that Rudy Giuliani is getting slapped
Yes.
with RICO because he very much rose to prominence using RICO cases against, in particular, the mob in New York. And if you're going to have a government, you're going to have a democratic republic where power is vested in the people that are elected by the populace, then you can't have mafias. You can't have criminal conspiracies kind of running around outside the law and getting around the law by saying that, okay, well, you don't have, you don't have anything on us. Yes, it is clear that we are running drugs, running illegal casinos, running sex trafficking and human trafficking operations, trying to overthrow an election, but you actually you don't have anything specific on us that can pin a serious crime on this. And so you end up just slapping a whole bunch of misdemeanors together, even though you can prove that it was all collectively oriented toward this grand kind of collective conspiracy. So to the extent that you can bring those laws to bear on entities that are trying to become private governments, and that's the interesting kind of link between a private gang of people that is trying to overturn an election and a private gang of people that doesn't bother with elections and just kind of takes over a community by force. That's basically the same thing, and that's what a democratic society can have. Like we have established ways that you are able to get into government, and we don't have mafias. Like, I mean, we do, but we shouldn't. And so the RICO is aimed at making sure that the people have control over their own sovereignty. So to me, they can absolutely be abused in a lot of different ways, and we need to be on guard for that. But in general, I think that it's a necessary part of the people exercising their own sovereignty.
That's why Ryan voted for Giuliani in the Republican primary in 2008.
America's mayor.
Hey, if you liked that video, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to Breaking Points.
If you want to see the rest of Counterpoints, go to breakingpoints.com to become a premium member and get the full uncut show every morning in your inbox and on Spotify.
Help us build independent news and get the full show every morning at breakingpoints.com.